I worked myself to the bone juggling two exhausting jobs to finance my younger sister's entire college lifestyle, covering her rent, bills, and luxuries, only for her to mock me as a loser at family dinner, not realizing I was seconds away from cutting her off completely and exposing the truth about years of ungrateful exploitation. I financed my sister's college years while grinding through two jobs, only for her to call me a loser at a family dinner. She didn't expect me to cut off her rent and explain exactly why she couldn't keep propping up her lifestyle anymore. When my kid sister Lauren got into her dream university, my family treated it like she'd won a Nobel Prize. My parents glowed. Lauren mapped out her future, and I stood off to the side doing the math no one else wanted to. My parents didn't have the cash for tuition. They made that obvious with pointed comments in every conversation. Lauren's brilliant, but school costs a fortune these days, my mom would say, locking eyes with me like I didn't know what that meant. I didn't have much. I was a mechanic trying to stash away enough for a down payment. But she was my sister, so I tried to help. It started small, textbooks, groceries. It snowballed fast. Rent, utilities, even de-stress nights out. Every request arrived with a reason. I'll pay you back after graduation. Mom and Dad can't help right now. My parents acted like it was my duty. Family takes care of family, they'd say, as if I wasn't already killing myself working doubles. Meanwhile, Lauren behaved like the sun rose for her. She flooded social media with photos of sleek dinners and weekend escapes, grinning like she wasn't spending my money. I kept insisting it was temporary. Once she graduates, it'll all make sense, I told myself. But underneath, resentment grew. My life was stalled while hers sped forward, and I was footing the bill. I hoped it would get better once she settled into a routine. Maybe she'd notice how much I was doing and show some appreciation. Instead, her entitlement sharpened. The first big red flag was her spending. While I skipped meals and pushed overtime to cover her rent, she showcased new outfits online, designer bags, trendy shoes, fancy brunches. At first I thought maybe she picked up a part-time job or she was putting on a show. When I asked, she shrugged. Everyone dresses like this. I don't want to look like I don't belong. It wasn't only about money. She treated me like an ATM. No, how are you holding up? No, can I help? My parents didn't listen either. When I tried to explain I was drowning, they guilted me into silence. She's your sister. She's building a future. You should be proud. But this wasn't just helping, it was bleeding my weekends, draining my savings, burying the house I hoped to buy. She couldn't be bothered to send a simple thank you. She called to complain about professors, work, roommates. Never once asked how I managed two jobs to keep her comfortable. The bitterness I'd shoved down began to surface. I was tired of being invisible as long as her world kept spinning. The breaking point showed up when she announced she wanted to study abroad. She didn't ask if I could swing it, she assumed I would. It'll be a phenomenal experience, she said, carefree. It costs a bit more, but it's once in a lifetime, right? I stared at my phone, stunned. I could barely keep up with her normal expenses, and now she wanted an international upgrade. I went to my parents, thinking they'd finally be sensible. They doubled down. This is an incredible chance, my mom said. You'll figure it out. You always do. No recognition of my exhaustion, no concern for my well-being, just the expectation I'd keep sacrificing, because that's what I was good for. Around the same time, her calls got more trivial, complaints about a roommate borrowing shoes, the cafeteria lacking real lattes. She made little digs about how I was always working, joking I was married to my job. A coworker told me during a late shift, she doesn't appreciate you. You bend over backward, and she acts like you owe her. For the first time, I started to believe it. Family dinner was meant to be a relaxed catch-up. My parents invited me over. Lauren was home for break. I didn't want to go, but I figured I could handle a few hours. From the minute I walked in, everything revolved around Lauren, classes, friends, what else she needed. I waited for someone to ask how I was, but no one did. Halfway through, she launched into the study abroad plan again, rattling on about how amazing it would be and how everyone she knew was going. She looked directly at me. Hope you're ready for some extra work, big brother. These programs aren't cheap. I froze. The audacity of saying that out loud, like it was already settled. Maybe you should get a part-time job, I said, trying to keep my voice even. She laughed.
Me?
A part-time job? I'm too busy with school. That was the last straw. I set my fork down and stared at her. You think I'm going to fund your lifestyle forever while you do nothing? The table went silent. My parents looked at me like I'd sworn. Lauren's jaw dropped. Then she snapped back. What's your problem? You've always been bitter. Just because your life isn't going anywhere doesn't mean you get to take it out on me. It hit like a punch. After everything, time, money, my own goals pushed aside, she saw me as a failure. The words stung, but I wasn't going to swallow them. Bitter? I leaned forward. My life isn't going anywhere because I've been too busy financing yours. My parents jumped in. That's inappropriate, my mom said. You're her brother. It's your job to support her. My job? I laughed. When did it become my job to work 2 shifts so she can live in luxury? When did it become my job to surrender my future so she can have hers gift-wrapped? Lauren crossed her arms and rolled her eyes. There it is, the martyr act. I stood up. Call me a failure if you want, Lauren, but at least I earn what I have. What have you done? You spend my money and pretend you're above me. I turned to my parents. And you two aren't any better. You've enabled her at every turn. I'm done. I'm not paying for anything anymore. Not her rent. Not tuition. Nothing. The room was a vacuum. Lauren went pale, genuinely shocked for once. You can't do that, she said, voice trembling. How am I supposed to live? Figure it out, I said, grabbing my jacket. I've been doing it for years. Maybe it's your turn. I left angry and relieved. For once, I'd stood up for myself. The fallout came fast. The next morning, my phone blew up. Lauren started with passive-aggressive jabs. Thanks for ruining dinner. Hope you feel good about leaving your sister stranded. When I didn't reply, she turned up the guilt. You're really going to abandon me after everything I've been through? I ignored it. Then my parents chimed in. My mom called, lacing every word with disappointment. I don't know what's gotten into you. Lauren needs your help. She's your sister. She's been my financial responsibility for years, I said. It's time she handled her own life. My dad called later and accused me of being selfish. What's she supposed to do now?
Get a job, I said.
Like the rest of us. The kicker came when her landlord called. She told him I paid her rent, and when it didn't go through, he came to me. She's not my responsibility anymore, I told him. You need to talk to her. That must have rattled her, because a few days later she showed up at my door, unannounced, frazzled and panicked. Nothing like the confident girl I knew. You can't just cut me off, she said. Yes, I can, I answered. She shifted in the doorway, and used to hearing no. You don't understand. If you don't help, I'll lose my apartment. I can't move back home. Mom and Dad don't have space. Not my problem, I said. Her mouth fell open. Not your problem? You're my brother. For years I've been more than that, I said. I've been your safety net, your wallet, your excuse not to grow up. I worked 2 jobs so you could chase a dream, and when I asked for respect, you called me a failure.
So no, not my problem anymore.
She blinked like she couldn't process it. I didn't mean it, she stuttered. I was upset. I wasn't thinking. You never think, I said. Not about anyone but yourself.
You used me.
You used Mom and Dad. Now you're panicking because consequences finally showed up. She started crying, loud, dramatic sobs that might have worked before. I wasn't swayed. You won't guilt me into changing my mind, I said. Figure it out.
Get a job.
Budget. Do what you need to do. Leave me out of it. You're being cruel, she snapped, wiping tears. Family helps family.
No, I said.
Family supports each other. They don't exploit each other and call it love. Until you get that, don't come back. I closed the door. For the first time in years, I felt in control. I knew she wouldn't suffer quietly. My parents called the next day, furious. My mom launched into her script. How could you do this to your sister? She's struggling and you abandoned her when she needed you most. Struggling? I asked. She's been living off my checks for years, while acting like a queen. Maybe she should learn what struggling actually looks like. My dad chimed in next, calling me heartless and ungrateful for everything they'd done. Ungrateful? I laughed. I've funded her lifestyle, while you applauded like she was the second coming. Meanwhile, I've been breaking myself to keep her comfortable. The more I laid it out, the quieter they got. Eventually, all they could say was that I was tearing the family apart. Lauren's meltdown went public. She posted vague messages about people only caring about themselves, about being betrayed by those closest to her. She even launched a GoFundMe for her rent, claiming an unexpected expense blindsided her. Her friends commented with concerned emojis, asking how to help. The money barely trickled in. Turns out strangers weren't excited to bankroll her habits. Word spread through the family fast. An aunt called to tell me I was being unreasonable. After I explained, she changed her tune. She really expected you to keep paying her rent? She asked, stunned. Welcome to my world, I said. Then my parents showed up at my door. That's when I realized it wasn't only Lauren. It was the entire system around her, enabling her, acting like every problem was mine to fix. My mom pushed the narrative that I'd failed the family. Relatives I hadn't heard from in years slid into my messages with lines like, it's not fair to let her struggle and family comes first. As days passed, Lauren's control slipped. Through mutual friends, I learned she'd been evicted and moved back in with our parents. Of course, that wasn't enough. She expected to be catered to there too. One friend said she'd overheard Lauren complaining about the food at home, joking my parents should hire someone to take care of her since I wasn't around. Hearing that only reinforced my choice to cut ties. If they wanted to enable her, that was on them. I wasn't torching my life anymore for someone who couldn't say, thank you. Her slide continued. She camped back at my parents' place, treated like a fragile child. They used what little savings they had left to prop her up and still pinned the blame on me. I heard she kept spreading lies, telling anyone who'd listen that I'd abandoned her during a tough time, skipping the part where she'd been draining me for years while flaunting it like a birthright. It wasn't just financial, her social circle thinned too. Once people caught wind of the GoFundMe stunt, the same friends who loved those luxury dinners stopped picking up her calls. Without me paying, there was nothing to offer. The final straw came when my parents called in a panic. Lauren had opened a credit card in their name and maxed it out on a shopping spree. They begged me to help, said they couldn't make the payments. I couldn't help but laugh. After defending her, enabling her, and vilifying me, they wanted a rescue.
This is your mess, I said.
You chose to support her. You chose to ignore the behavior. Now you're dealing with the consequences. For once, they didn't argue. Maybe they finally realized I wasn't swooping in again. That was the last I heard for a long time. I focused on rebuilding, on my own future, with no one draining me dry. It took years to undo the damage, but I came out steadier, clearer, stronger. As for Lauren, last I heard she was still living with my parents, trapped in the same loop of entitlement and excuses. A part of me felt sorry for them, stuck with the fallout. Mostly, I felt free. They made their bed. Now they can lie in it.